You have an administration with a whole mindset that Donald Trump's a dictator, he's going to be Hitler, he's going to imprison us, he's going to this, he's going to that. Again, I'm not saying it's an intentional, let's create a scenario where he gets harmed, but I can see a situation in which they say, all right, look, we have limited resources, we need some over here, we have the RNC. Okay, pull some people off of Trump and put them over there. Okay, that's what we need to know. There was another story that Joe Biden was in Western Pennsylvania and they pulled some Secret Service off. I have no idea. But right now, apparently, the Biden administration is stonewalling despite the fact that they say we're going to get to the bottom of that. We don't want to get to the bottom of this in 6 months. We get to the bottom of this by the end of the week. CBS News Face the Nation. U.S. intelligence detected Iranian plot against Trump before the Pennsylvania rally, which of course makes this more and more curious. I'm not a conspiracy nut. I don't think it's purposeful to try and create a scenario where Donald Trump would be assassinated. But I do think it's possible that because it was Donald Trump, they relaxed. L-A-X-E-D. They relaxed. That maybe they didn't have the A-team there, that there weren't enough resources there. Look, something went wrong. Something went wrong. Maybe 10 things went wrong. Why? I don't think that would happen to other people. I'm just wondering because, you have an administration with a whole mindset that Donald Trump's a dictator, he's going to be Hitler, he's going to imprison us, he's going to this, he's going to that. Again, I'm not saying it's an intentional, let's create a scenario where he gets harmed, but I can see a situation in which they say, all right, look, we have limited resources, we need some over here, we have the RNC. Okay, pull some people off of Trump and put them over there. Okay, that's what we need to know. There was another story that Joe Biden was in Western Pennsylvania and they pulled some Secret Service off. I have no idea. But right now, apparently, the Biden administration is stonewalling despite the fact that they say we're going to get to the bottom of that. We don't want to get to the bottom of this in 6 months. We get to the bottom of this by the end of the week. Why can't you? You can. So here's CBS on the Iranian plot to assassinate Donald Trump. Got that? The Iranian... I get this question, Mark, why are you always talking about Iran and Israel and the Middle East? Duh. The hell do you think? Go.
Good afternoon. I'm Lindsay Reiser. Thanks for joining us here on CBS News 24/7. CBS News has learned U.S. intelligence officials detected an Iranian plot against former President Donald Trump. 2 officials confirmed they found out about the threat recently, and it was shared before Trump's rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday. But there's no information suggesting the threat was connected to the attempted assassination over the weekend.
See, that's important to know, but that's not the end-all and be-all. The Iranians have a hit out on Donald Trump. And have you heard any national figure say that Iran should be punished for this? Maybe a Tom Cotton or a Ted Cruz or something like that. But I'm talking about any top Democrat. Have you heard the media say that Iran should be punished for this? Go.
So, Sam, what do we know about this threat and why is Trump a target?
Well, Lindsay, I am unsurprised by reporting that there have been additional Iranian threats to Mr. Trump. During my time at the Department of Homeland Security, I worked with the U.S. Secret Service and others to review threats facing protectees, U.S. Secret Service protectees. And based upon Mr. Trump and his cabinet's decision to engage in the assassination of an individual named Qasem Soleimani, who was the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, an entity that conducted terror attacks and supported terror attacks around the world.
Whoa. Who's responsible for murdering thousands of Americans and maiming them? Let's just be blunt, soldiers. And Trump had enough of this guy. Go ahead.
The Iranian regime vowed to avenge that assassination, and there have been an ongoing series of threats to Mr. Trump and specific members of his administration when they were in office and since they left office, Lindsay.
Do we know of any new threats against other Trump administration-era officials?
The U.S. Secret Service has not disclosed that, but it is important to note that the U.S. Secret Service is not responsible for providing protection for anyone other than Mr. Trump and his immediate...
Let me stop you 1 second. Robert O'Brien was the national security advisor at the time for Donald Trump. He had government officials, not necessarily Secret Service, protection. Biden pulled it. Now he's paying for his own protection. Same with a gentleman by the name of Hooks. Biden pulled that protection. So this man is now paying for his own protection. Biden wouldn't give RFK protection, despite multiple requests, despite the fact that his father and his uncle were assassinated. And I might add, his father was assassinated by a Palestinian, Sirhan. Now he's giving him Secret Service protection. You don't play games with people's lives like this. This is an administration that spends money like drunken Marxists, but then they become tightwads when it comes to the security of certain individuals. Isn't that outrageous? Go ahead.
The U.S. Secret Service did continue protection for certain Trump administration officials after they left office, including National Security Advisor John Bolton, for a time Secretary of the Treasury Steve Mnuchin, and National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien. So I can tell you from experience working alongside the U.S. Secret Service and the intelligence community, they consistently evaluate for new threat information and have consistently over time adjusted their operational posture for protectees in light of that specific new threat information.
So the Secret Service sent us a statement saying they're constantly reviewing new potential threats and adjusting resources as needed and can't comment further. But given what you know about how this department works, you said yourself you're not surprised to hear of this news, that it was long thought, long assumed that Iran would at some point try and retaliate against the assassination of Soleimani. Do you think the Secret Service would adjust their posture here?
Well, according to the reporting, the Secret Service did adjust their posture in light of this latest reporting. But again, this latest reported threat from Iran against Mr. Trump is just the latest in an ongoing set of threats to Mr. Trump and Trump administration officials in light of the assassination of Qasem Soleimani and their larger policy against Iran. The Secret Service protection mission is twofold. They have an intelligence mission where, again, they work with members of the intelligence community to receive new intelligence and learn more about any threats affecting their protectees. And then when new threat information is received, they incorporate that into adjusted operational planning.
So apparently they incorporated this Iranian plot into their planning in Butler, and their decision was to leave it to the local cops, the small police force, to protect the outside of the perimeter area in a building that is 130 yards away from where Trump is speaking. Does any of this make sense to anybody? Let's incorporate this Iranian threat in there. So what should we do? Make sure that rooftop's not covered over there. Now, obviously, they didn't put it that way, but that was the consequence. And look, the Secret Service obviously needs to coordinate with local and state officials, but it cannot give those officials, it cannot delegate those officials purely Secret Service responsibilities. It's ridiculous. The Secret Service is trained over and over again on how to protect a president or an asset, quote unquote. These local guys are not. Even if they have SWAT teams, they're not used to a crowd of 25, 30, 50,000 people in this tiny community. This is basically a rural Western Pennsylvania community, which is dotted, those types of communities all over the country, including in Pennsylvania. So obviously you could use the local police to do basic police work, right? They have canines. You check out the area for illicit weapons. You can again check people at the gates when they're coming in, their purses, their pockets, all that sort of thing. Maybe even have some working with the Secret Service inside the perimeter. But in terms of checking outside the perimeter, protecting outside the perimeter, when I heard that they frequently delegate that to local police, I couldn't believe it. And what's to determine what that perimeter is? That building was not far away, and it had a clear sight, yet a clear shot from the roof. Look, I can ask all the questions in the world. We're not going to get them answered unless and until we get to the bottom of this, and I'm glad that the Republicans in the Senate and the House want to get to the bottom. The Democrats say they want to, so there should be no problem. But we can't afford any more stonewalling on this.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.